welcome to First. I'm Nichelle Poston along with Shirley Min and Mark Eichman. The school year is almost done, but for 4 newly approved charter schools in Delaware, a new beginning is a year away.
The Delaware General Assembly session is nearly complete. On First this week, we turn to the pages of newsworks.org to update what's at stake over the next month and a half.
Fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva, or FOP, is a rare genetic disease. And with one reported case of it in Delaware, First updates you on how a Delaware boy is coping with it. First, your public media news magazine starts now.
4 new charter schools are coming to Delaware, including one with roots in Philadelphia. The schools will open as early as fall of 2015 and have already begun the recruitment process. In this week's First Look, we'll take a look at what's unique about this state and why charter schools are eyeing Delaware to set up shop.
Guess it's 3 o'clock.
How do you know it's 3 o'clock? There's no numbers.
In one of Wilmington's poorest neighborhoods, where public district schools are few in numbers, Dr. Lamont Brown makes it a point to offer students here at Eastside Charter School the best education despite its surroundings.
There are very few school options for the kids in this community. And even though their families may have their struggles, they deserve a great education just like every other kid, just like you, just like myself. So we are here to make sure that those students get a great education and have the same opportunities to go to a great high school and college as well.
3 years ago, a struggling Eastside charter was on the Department of Education's radar, like Reach Academy in Wilmington. Now it serves as a good example of a successful charter school.
Our school has made great progress. Our kids over the last 2 years have grown 20 percentage points in math and 24 percentage points in reading. So it's been a lot of progress, a lot of hard work to get there. But our students are excited, our kids are excited, our staff is excited. They're really working hard to make the progress we've made.
What's incredibly exciting is that some of our highest performing schools in Delaware are charter schools, and some of our fastest gaining schools in Delaware are charter schools.
And so it seems only right to Delaware Department of Education Secretary Mark Murphy to allow the growth of charter schools, which are held to a different accountability mechanism in the state. In fact, the department recently approved 4 new charter applicants to open schools starting in the fall of 2015.
I think what is appealing here is that this is a landscape here in Delaware that is supportive. It is a landscape with a solid policy framework. And in Delaware, as I think you know, over these last 2 decades, we are the 3rd fastest improving state academically in the country. And I think if I were aiming to open a school, this would be a great place to do it.
¿Por qué Ana no avisa?
No hay corridas de toros en America.
Exactamente.
One of the 4 approved schools is Frieri Charter School in Philadelphia that's expanding to now serve the Wilmington, Newcastle County community.
As we understand it, we have a proven track record. It's not typical in Delaware to have folks that have some experience really come in and do this. So we want to partner with everybody.
Frieri's connection to Delaware is the school's head of academic affairs, Bill Porter, who was born and educated in the state. He's been looking to open up a school in Delaware for many years, despite news of failing charter schools and the recent shutdown of Penn Cater, which aren't enough to deter Bill, who says there's still a cluster of children Frieri Charter can serve.
Charter schools, right now it seems that hitting a bumpy patch in terms of public image in Delaware. What we want to rely on, though, is that we have a track record of success for 15 years. We're the only applicant in Delaware history that actually, we have graduates. We have kids who not only have gone off to college, but have gotten through college.
Frieri wants to recruit at least 300 students. But Delaware, compared to the city of Philadelphia, is much smaller. So will recruitment be a challenge, especially with 3 additional charter schools preparing to open as well?
We have some great friends in the city already. 2 of our school leaders we've already brought on board are from Wilmington, have proven themselves there, and so they can help disseminate the message out that Frieri's coming to Wilmington and we're ready to go.
Over the years, views vary on charter schools in the state, but the Department of Education dismisses any negative connotations.
When we look at national surveys of parents and some recent surveys here in Delaware, what we see is parents having very positive reactions to school choices, whether those are district schools or charter schools.
Meanwhile, the hope for the new charter schools coming to Delaware, which are all unique, is to model the success seen here at Eastside Charter, where school enrollment has increased and pre-kindergarten classes are now being offered.
We really have a kind of whole community approach to educating our kids. So our parents are bought in, they're invested, they show up at report card conferences, and our teachers are working incredibly hard to teach our kids.
Here's a list of the 4 new charter schools set to open. In the story, we took you inside Frieri Charter, the Philadelphia school that's now reaching out to students here in Delaware. It's a college prep high school with a strict non-bullying policy. There's also Delaware STEM Academy, a high school that will focus on science, technology, engineering, and math. Great Oaks Charter School copies a New Jersey school by recruiting recent college graduates to tutor 6th grade through 9th grade students. Finally, Mapleton Charter School within the Whitehall housing development will be an elementary school that isn't set to open until 2016.
Now, Nichelle, we've seen the number of charter schools grow, but what does the enrollment look like?
According, Shirley, to the National Alliance for Public Charter Schools, enrollment in Delaware's charter schools has grown by over 76% since 2004 and 2005. Today, Education Secretary Mark Murphy tells me more than 10,000 Delaware students are enrolled in charter schools statewide, and that number continues to grow.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Nichelle. And you can follow our reporting of this story at the place to find all of your Delaware news, newsworks.org/Delaware.
Coming up on First, we first learned of Justin Hankey's genetic bone condition 6 years ago. Later, an update on how he's doing. And Downton Abbey can only be seen in Delaware. First Experience has it.
The Delaware legislature is back in session after its Easter break and the Joint Finance Committee hearings before that. It's an interesting time because a lot of bills are coming up for a vote, and a budget must be passed before the June 30th deadline. So we've asked Shanna O'Malley to join us to talk about all of that. Shanna's reporting can be seen on newsworks.org/Delaware. Hi, Shanna. Glad to have you here on set.
Thank you.
Right now, the state is projecting a $55 million budget shortfall for years 2014 and 2015, and I imagine that doesn't bode well for the governor's gas tax and clean water tax initiatives.
It's still a little early, but yes, we are facing a projected deficit for 2014-2015. And I talked to Senator Greg Lavelle to see if that's concerning, and he told me that they're really looking forward to seeing the May DFACT report because that will really give them a more solid figure on what they'll have to work with and what projects will stay and what projects will go.
The next 2 DFACTs will really set the tone for whether or not the gas tax and the water tax and some of these other things really have a chance at all. And at this point, I'm thinking they're both looking a little slim to none in terms of passing.
Senator Lavelle, they're saying DFACT projections could make or break the governor's initiatives. Do you think we're going to see clean water and gas tax legislation this session?
I've been told that the Clean Water Initiative is in a draft bill form and is being circulated among legislators right now. We know that DENREC Secretary Colin O'Meara is stepping down to head the National Wildlife Federation, but he has agreed to stay on board until July to help get this legislation done. So I do think that we'll see a bill come up, and I do think we'll see a vote this session. The gas tax initiative, it's a little more complicated. Legislators have been split since it was introduced in January. The people who oppose the bill say that the average Delaware motorist isn't going to be able to afford the $57 a year that they're estimating it will cost, and it's not good for small businesses. On the other hand, the people that are supporting the bill say that it hasn't been increased in almost 2 decades since 1995, so it's about that time, and it will provide the revenue that we need to get some important DelDOT projects started. I talked to House Speaker Pete Schwarzkopf about it, and he said that he's not going to introduce legislation until he's sure that he can get bipartisan support on the issue.
Right now, the votes aren't there. I've been very adamant about the fact that these are bipartisan issues. Our infrastructure is not a partisan issue. It affects all of us, Ds, Rs, independents. So it shouldn't be a partisan solution.
So while the General Assembly appears to be at an impasse where the gas tax is concerned, the casinos seems to get some support from both sides of the aisle. Why should the state take action where the casinos are concerned?
The casino revenue has been down for a few years, and it's not just a Delaware problem, it's a national trend. The casinos are facing competition from surrounding states, and people just don't have the dispensable income to go and enjoy an evening out at the casinos as we continue to get out of the recession. Also, the state has come to the casinos during bad budget years and continue to ask for increases. And I talked to Representative Danny Short about it, and he said, you know, now that the casinos aren't doing well, it's sort of time for the state to step up and do their part to help out.
The issue might be for people out in the public to view this as a bailout, but in actuality what this really is a give back of tax dollars that's taken from the casinos to allow the state to operate.
Representative Short said it, but a lot of people are calling this a bailout. So how bad would it be if Delaware were to lose a casino like Dover Downs?
I posed this question in Legislative Hall, and the answers I got were catastrophic, detrimental, and just really not an option for the state. The state relies on the casinos for a large part of revenue for the budget. And more importantly, as I talked to Senator Brian Bushweller about it, he said it's about jobs. I mean, we can't afford to lose a major job creator.
1,400 people earn their living at Dover Downs. Another 300 work for contractors, and they earn their living at Dover Downs. It's a very important job generator for Central Kent County and across the entire state with all three casinos.
So a task force was established last year, and they have come up with a few recommendations for the state that the state can make to help the casinos out. I've heard that a bill is in a draft form and is being circulated, so we'll see if it comes up this session.
All right, thank you so much, Shanna O'Malley, and you can follow Shanna's reporting in Dover along with all of your daily Delaware news when you visit newsworks.org/Delaware. Legislative updates can also be heard on WHYY FM 90.9 and along the Delaware beaches at 90.3.
The Kids Count Fact Book is an annual compilation of statistics and information on Delaware's children. It's basically a report card on the state of Delaware's kids. The 19th annual Fact Book will be released on May 12th, but here to give us a sneak preview is Janice Barlow, Director of Kids Count Delaware. Janice, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And really, this is a look at who are Delaware's kids? What is the makeup of the population of Delaware's children?
That's right. That's right. We always start our fact book with a section on demographics, who the kids are, because that has such an important part in all of the other categories, the health, the education, the family and community factors. And what we're seeing this year in the demographics, it's actually an ongoing trend, both at the state and national level, is that children in Delaware are becoming more and more diverse. Right now, they're the diverse generation ever. The reason why this is important is because in our data, when we break down the statistics on particular indicators by race and ethnicity, there are several places where we see very dramatic disparities in the number. And as our population of people of color grow, we really need to address those disparities in order to be prosperous for the future.
And one of the things that the Kids Count Fact Book over the years has really been hitting on here in Delaware especially is infant mortality.
Yes.
And there's been continued success in getting those numbers lower in general, and also by those broken down by race and ethnicity.
Yes, and one of the factors of the high infant mortality rate, an indicator that's linked very closely to that, is the number of children who are born at low birth weight. Now, low birth weight is 5.5 pounds, 5.5 pounds or below. We are seeing that decrease. Delaware is higher than the nation in low birth weight and infant mortality, but we have been seeing a decrease in the numbers over the past few years. When we look at the disparities, black babies are still almost twice as likely as white or Hispanic babies to be born at low birth weight or to die within the first year, the infant mortality piece.
So still some work to go on those.
Yes.
As the kids get a little bit older, one of the things the fact book has also keyed on over the years is alcohol, tobacco, drug use. Those numbers going down as well?
Those numbers are self-reported in a survey called the Youth Risk Behavior Survey that's conducted every other year throughout Delaware's public high schools. And what we're seeing in those trends is that tobacco actually is coming down. Kids are more likely to abuse alcohol or marijuana than they are to abuse tobacco. So that message, we've been messaging that since probably the 80s, not to smoke and tobacco is harmful. That message is getting through. So now we need to start looking at these other substances and messaging around those.
Also, another big one over the years has been birth to teen moms.
Yes, and that has been... that's been a national success story. There are very few indicators where over the long term we see such a dramatic decrease. And birth to teens, in particular the 15 to 17 age range, those younger teens, that has had a dramatic decline. And Delaware in the most recent couple of years has actually declined below the national average. So that's even more great news for Delaware.
On the side that needs improvement, there's a lot of numbers on particularly poverty,
yes,
and the impact that has on kids in Delaware.
And poverty really does impact kids in education. It impacts their safety and their health. It really affects all of the other indicators that we report on in our book. And poverty in Delaware kids, we are below the nation slightly, but it's been increasing over the last few years. And we have poverty is a very severe threshold. So a family of 3 with 1 parent and 2 children would need to make $18,498 or below to be considered in poverty. This is a really low number.
Yeah, it seems like unlike teen pregnancy or smoking, it's not something you can really message your way out of or educate your way out of, that it's a lot broader problem than that.
And a piece of it is that kids aren't in poverty by virtue of their own earnings. They're in poverty by virtue of their family's income. And so over the last 50 years, we've seen trends in single parenthood, and we know that single parent households earn about 1/3 of two parent households. This trend is just, I think it's here to stay. Pew Research did some research on attitudes of millennials, and they said 44% of millennials say that marriage is obsolete, that parenting is valued much more than marriage, and we're seeing that reflected in the numbers.
All right, Janice Barlow, Director of Kids Count Delaware, thank you for being here as our first person this week. The report we've been talking about here will be available online Monday the 12th. You can go to dekidscount.org to learn more.
WHYY.org/first has all of our first shows for you to view when you want to. This show will be available on Monday. Don't forget to sign up for our e-newsletter. It will tell you what's coming up next week as well.
Justin Hankey celebrates his 14th birthday this weekend and remains the only person in the state who suffers from a genetic disease known as FOP. The rare disease affects 1 in 2 million people worldwide and has no effective treatments or cure to date. Swimming is the perfect sport for Justin Hankey. It doesn't stress your bones, joints, or connective tissues. And there's also very little risk of injury. And that's critical for Justin, who suffers from the rare genetic disease fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva, or FOP.
If I get a bad bruise, I could lock up like my elbow, and I can't move it.
With FOP, muscles, tendons, and ligaments can turn into bone. Flare-ups can occur at any time, but injuries or trauma can accelerate the effects. The Mutter Museum of the College of Physicians of Philadelphia provided these pictures of Harry Eastlack that illustrate the typical progression of FOP. Eastlack's symptoms first appeared at the age of 4 after he'd broken his left leg. Eastlack died just short of his 40th birthday. Looking at his skeleton, you can see where extra bone formed, limiting his mobility.
I can't take contact, like rough contact,
I can do handshakes and everything.
Justin was born with his neck vertebrae fused, extra bone in his hips and elbows, and malformed big toes, which you can see here on his feet. The malformed toe is a characteristic abnormality in FOP patients. According to the International FOP Association, 95% of those with FOP exhibit the toe abnormality. FOP is often misdiagnosed as cancer, but any surgeries or biopsies worsen the condition because of the trauma they cause. We first met Justin 7 years ago at his Middletown home. He was only 6 years old at the time.
I can't do roller coasters because it makes me jerk back my neck.
Like any other kid his age, he liked to play outside and ride his bike. Besides growing taller and Mom Wendy's hairstyle, thankfully for Justin, not much has really changed since then.
I mean, he's grown big, and I guess that's what's really important is the fact that his chest has been able to grow, because with FOP, extra bone grows about the rib cage, and it restricts the expansion and contraction of the rib cage for breathing.
What has changed in the 7 years is the discovery of a possible drug treatment for FOP. While it's not a cure, Wendy seems optimistic.
It interrupts what's called the scaffolding phase of a flare-up. So when that tissue is laying down scaffolding, cartilage scaffolding for bone to grow on, they have a drug that interrupts that scaffolding phase.
Wendy says it could be years before the drug is available. In the meantime, the Hankeys will keep doing what they're doing, trying not to wake up Justin's sleeping giant.
You go on living, but you know that you've got a beast that potentially could just arrive on the scene. I mean, you could wake up and a joint that once moved no longer moves.
The only lab dedicated to FOP research is located at UPenn in Philadelphia. With 800 confirmed cases worldwide and 285 of those in the U.S., the FOP community is tight-knit with annual conventions and online community and support groups. Now, just one more thing, we do want to wish Justin a happy 14th birthday.
We have cartoonist Rob Torno in the studio with us. You can always see Rob's work on the pages of newsworks.org, but we like to roll him out once in a while for TV. This month, we focus on Beau Biden. And tell me this, Rob, your cartoon sort of paints the picture that Beau is being a bit secretive about his health, and people want to know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously he's had some health problems. You know, we've had reports from his doctors and surgeons saying that he's 100% healthy, but he's been out of the spotlight. He doesn't respond well to reporters' requests for interviews. He doesn't give press conferences. So in a way, it sort of pushes this whole idea that he's being secret. And now that he's running for governor, there's more onus to know, what he's doing and how he's feeling.
Okay. Do you think voters need to know about his health?
Maybe not. I mean, there's a couple issues with that. One, he's still the Attorney General, so is his health affecting his job performance now? I mean, I think that's an important question. And as we get closer to the governor's race, I think it's important to know his health at that point. I mean, maybe now we're still 2 years out. It might be a little too early, but he's still a public official and he still has a job with the state. So, some transparency would be nice, especially when you are the Attorney General of the state.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the Phillies.
Okay.
You have another cartoon for us, and it always seems pretty crowded when I'm there, but tell me about your cartoon.
Yeah, so attendance might be busy when you go, but it's lower on average than what it had been a couple of years ago, and a lot of that's low expectations. A lot of it's the weather. So, they're performing better, I think, than most people thought, so hopefully people will trickle in, and, the Phillies will do well, and we'll all be happy.
Okay. Well, thanks for being here, Rob. One thing for certain, between sports and the crazy things that happen in government, Rob is always busy. Check him out this week at newsworks.org/Delaware or follow Rob on Twitter at Rob Torno.
If clothes make the man or woman, then the people living in the world of Downton Abbey have it made. Even though this season of the Smash PBS show is finished, the Winterthur Museum has given us an up-close view of the wardrobes worn by the cast. First Experience shares the exhibit.
It's not a jump for someone who's at Winterthur to have thought of Downton Abbey, that is a comparison of an American country estate with the fictional country estate that's portrayed on Downton Abbey. We sent 2 emissaries to England to pick out the clothes. And then we had 3 senior people who were the curators, and they worked with the designers. And voila, here's the show.
What we have here are the costumes of Downton Abbey. We wanted not just the upstairs, the beautiful evening dresses, but we wanted downstairs represented. We wanted men's clothes. We've got 40 costumes. They're arranged throughout the day, starting with the morning. We move through the day, people working inside the house, people having fun outside, the leisure activities. We go into tea, we go into dinner, and we finish up with the fantastic evening clothes of some of the older ladies on the show. Fiction condenses, it dramatizes, it makes things a lot more accessible. That's what Downton Abbey is doing with history. What does it mean to be working in a big house like that? How do people dress? What is the proper way to have dinner or tea? And we try to answer some of those questions here in the exhibition. This is giving us an opportunity to talk about the real people who lived here, who worked here. We can finally compare and contrast with the Downton history that people are already familiar with. We did a lot of research on what people are interested with Downton, and they're interested in a lot of the historic details. What does a lady's maid do? What does the butler do? We pose those questions and we hope we answer it.
We know that we're going to get a lot of first-time visitors to Winterthur. We hope that they will better understand Winterthur and that they'll come back and that they'll become members and supporters of this great place.
The costumes and the settings are fantastic. People love them. They're unbelievably ornate. They've got these wonderful embellishments, and looking at them closely, you see all sorts of beautiful intricacies that you often get a glimpse of on TV, but you can really take a good look here in the exhibition. One of the things we hope when people come to see the show is that they have fun. We want it to be an enjoyable experience. For us here at Winterthur anyway, it's been really fun.
There is still time to see this exhibit for yourself, and if you go to Winterthur on Saturdays in May, you can see a collection of historic automobiles that were in use during the country estate era. You can get more information when you visit their website, winterthur.org.
And next week on First, as Memorial Day approaches, more groups are holding Vietnam veteran reunions. We look at the significance they attach to these meetings. And a 2014 take on Shakespeare. Old William's 450 years old, and he still holds up.
Before we go, there was a fun event at Leg Hall this week. Delaware now has a state seashell. The channeled whelk is now the official Delaware seashell. Try saying that 3 times fast. Governor Jack Markell signed the proclamation this week. The Girl Scouts of the Chesapeake Council were instrumental in making this happen. We have a story on newsworks.org if you want to check it out. That is First for this week. We thank you for watching. For Shirley Min and Mark Eichman and our Delaware Seashell, I'm Michelle Polson. Have a great week.